Dr. Suvi Uski is the CEO of digital service company Somebody that offers legal and psychological first aid to victims of online harassment and other cybercrime. Dr. Uski has her background in social psychology and social media research. She's been building impact startups and teaching her own course on social media at the University of Helsinki. Welcome, Suvi Uski.
Thank you for having me. So exciting.
So excited to meet you. We met once in Slush, like maybe a month or 2 months or something. It's not too long ago.
No.
And we had a little talk then, and you agreed to come on my podcast, and I'm happy you're here right now.
Yeah, so good to be here. And it feels like it was like 2 weeks ago, but yeah, that's true. It's over a month, I guess.
A lot of things happened since. Are you going to Slush often, or I take it you've been there quite many times before,
yeah,
right?
I go there often, and of course, we live very close by, so that's number one reason, I guess. But then also, I think it's such a place for or source for inspiration as an entrepreneur, really, to be there. And it's cool that people travel from different locations of the world to Helsinki and see what others are up to. So super cool.
What do you think people get out of Slush event when they go there? It's full of entrepreneurs and excited people. I've been there 2 times. What is the thing that in your opinion people come there for?
Well, I think my advanced view would tell that meetings. So it has pretty good matchmaking opportunity that I think is the biggest value of the whole event, but also the way how the event has been designed. So it's like a nightclub type of theme, and it's a very good atmosphere. And then of course it's powered by young people, so you see so many volunteers that are students, and you get the vibe and the energy that this is like the present, but this is only also the future.
Oh yeah, they're building the future there for sure. Were you there representing Somebody, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because it's a really interesting project to me. I didn't think about the whole topic of AI helping with cyber harassment. Is that the word?
Yeah, online harassment or cyberbullying is kind of the more traditional term to describe it, but different forms.
What does cyberbullying mean?
It means that
how do you define it?
It means that you take your mean activities to online environments. But then from our perspective at Somebody, we see all kinds of conflicts between people. So if we look at the scale or the spectrum of incidents and unwanted events where people end up being, there are so many different categories of crimes, but also of labels of bullying or sexual harassment or how would I describe it? It's we give help to people in all ages. So from 7-year-olds to 75-year-olds, and you see all types of conflicts in the human life that there can be also happening in online environments, and even more so now that we're approaching the metaverse and the new environments in that sense. But from the legal perspective, I think a little bit over half of the cases we receive are diagnosed as crime. So it's also something to be taken very seriously.
Can you give some examples of what kind of cyberbullying cases are categorized as crime and what are not?
Well, of course, we are here operating now here in Finland, so we base our diagnosis on the Finnish law and legislation, and under that we have lots of defamation crime, and majority of hate speech, for example, goes under that label. But then also we have different types of spreading of private information, which is very typical form of online harassment. Then very different forms of sexual harassment are very common also within children. So that's alarming thing. And then of course different types of like identity frauds are increasing as well. If we look at like just like Instagram users, TikTok users, what we see is that identity frauds and fake profiles are increasing, and they're like a real means of making money or making someone else feel bad.
What role does Somebody play in social media, since there probably are already some sort of censorship in YouTube and Facebook, and a lot of people trying to prevent these crimes of identity theft and sexual harassment anyway. So what kind of addition this Somebody is to that? I
think the common view approaching online harassment is that how we can censor or filter it out from our systems or platforms, and that's valid, okay. But how somebody approaches these is that we help the victims. So there hasn't really been that much competition in this field that, you know, the junior person, let's say 7-year-old, 10-year-old, 18-year-old person who encounters very serious cyberbullying or sexual harassment online, they are usually very much traumatized and they need help, and there is no means to help them. And if we look at like the local picture here in Finland, I think there is no way to get any type of help. Just like a person outside of the online harassment scheme could say that, okay, you just go to the police and file a report and so on. But our view is that the police isn't still enough equipped with online crime in order to diagnose it, or to take the further steps down to actually to help the victims. And that's pretty concerning, I would say. And then, of course, like in Finland, we are super tech-loving nation. So our youngest kids also have their smartphones and stuff. So that, of course, creates a bigger risk for them for, you know, being attacked online. And that's what we see. Like the percentages of online harassment, sexual harassment, and other crime are very high here in Finland.
I actually heard about these things around the world, that young kids, elementary kids, age of 11 or 12, it's like a fashion around the world trend from Singapore to US to film your schoolmates naked and put their pictures or video in social media to kind of ruin their youth completely. Like, I think that's very damaging kind of experience for a lot of kids. And I don't think anybody has a recipe to really help them afterwards. Like, what is the Somebody? I think I pronounced it wrong. Somebody, right? You call it Somebody.
We usually say somebody, but it's like Somebody. Yeah,
somebody.
Yeah, might be easier.
Okay. I'll call it Somebody. So, have you seen these trends of young kids online harassment growing in the last years?
Yes, we have. And if we look back like 4 years ago, it was 1/4 of the children in Finland who encountered sexual harassment online. And now in 2 years' time, the latest numbers say that the amount has doubled. So we're talking about like every other child encountering sexual harassment online, and that are like very big numbers. And as we can see that it's youth or childhood easily ruined. And of course, like we help these victims of different types of incidents by offering them like access to justice, which is the biggest like beef you can actually give to a person. So telling what type of a crime it is, if it's a crime, and also showing the steps what you should do in that. And then of course we give like psychological first aid. So if you're not feeling okay, which is most typically the case, we can give you first aid for that. And then also some very concrete tips to protect yourself on social media. So it's like a whole package that you get from us. And what we see, for example, in the younger generation, so let's say kids between 7 to 18, that the platform causing most of the trouble is now Snapchat. And one of the reasons being there that it's the most popular tool for communicating between kids, of course. But then on the side, it's encouraging people to post on a very low threshold, which means that there is not that much like good judgment in place when you publish things, and that is one of the reasons that like the kids might have this idea that okay, I'll post this and then it will just disappear, and things don't disappear. They will be screenshotted or recorded elsewhere. So and that is very, very kind of big problem when we talk about like nude pictures or so.
Got it. In the last years, the TikTok has grown very powerful and popular. Have you seen any problems there? I think different countries regulate it in a very different way, like China, US, and Europe. But does online bullying happen there a lot since it's a fresh platform, or have they managed to regulate the
TikTok is definitely one of the biggest platforms in terms of like how we see the reports coming in. So and TikTok algorithms are pretty wild still. So a lot of things happen in a very short time, and as the user base is very global at the same time being very local. It's kind of, how would I say, like as a social media researcher, I would like to say that, it's kind of mixing up the cultures so fast that it's hard to, come up with the good, like social norms to protect people, the good culture of communication behavior in there. So, but definitely TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp, amongst the youngest users of social media. And then if we go a few years older, then also Instagram is there mentioned.
Does anybody use Facebook anymore? Does any bullying happen there?
Yeah.
Or have they censored everything?
And we definitely should not forget about Facebook. So Facebook is very popular amongst like more senior people. And lots of things happen there too. So yeah.
I see. Can you tell me a little bit about the process, how the Somebody AI helps these people? Like, I understand it's not so much about prevention, but first aid and helping after these things have happened. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So we have 3 different AI tools that we've built over the years. And then also we have human in the loop. So for those who know about AI, there is like AI who does all the work itself, but then also AI that is assisting humans to do their work better. So we have this latter type of AI tools. And at Somebody, we have emergency units consisting of professionals. So we have lawyers, psychologists, social psychologists, so humans who are collaborating. And then we have AI that is assisting them to do their work cost efficiently, very quickly, and very precisely. So that's what we've built. And when we look at the overall system, it's designed so that you can ask for help anonymously. So if you're one of our client communities, you can, like as a member of it, you can access it on anonymously. So, and we don't know who you are. So that's pretty cool. And that's innovative if we, look at the technological landscape in Finland. Here we register everything and we have name and address and all the demographics presented, but we have designed the whole system so that you don't have to tell us who you are. And then we have this AI tool called a crime detector that actually identifies or do the pre-identification of the case when it enters to our system. So we pretty much already know if it's a crime or what crime it is or what many crimes it can be. So it's actually a pretty cool system. And then our lawyers will confirm if that's the case really, or if the diagnosis is correct or incorrect. And that's what we do. And then of course we also have tools like optimal response libraries. So we have learned how to help the victims in different types of cases, and then our system is able to provide us with the latest information how we should respond to it. And this is actually, like, now that I explain how the system works, I think we're coming to the point where I need to kind of like put my claims on the table, so to say, but to kind of to open up a bit about the philosophy behind what we have built. So it's, I think firstly, it's totally obscure idea that we could give access to justice for kids or even adults. It's usually something that is super expensive. It's only for those who are in the process somewhere, or people have this view that it's not for them. That it would be nice to know if it's a crime or not, but I'm not entitled to know it. And then we have built the system in thinking that, okay, how much would it cost if we could be able to provide that information for every single victim? And then we were like, okay, it's super expensive. That it's too expensive. So that's the reason why we are not doing it. And that's the reason why we don't even ask for it, We just see that it's super, super expensive. And I think that was one of the ambitious design goals for us, to think that, okay, if it's super expensive, we can't do it. But if we still want to do it, how would we do it? With assistance of technology. And then we moved towards do the building blocks. Okay, what would we need? And then it was a 2.5 years of pure work of developers and designers and the professionals collaborating to make it really happen. That, okay, we now have a system that we can give access to justice for even juniors in a very cost-effective manner. So that's something that I'm very proud of, that we did, even though it feels that it's impossible to do something like that, or it's an avenue that not so many people would choose, because it sounds that it's too far-fetched to get that type of professional help at that price.
Mm-hmm. I see. And are you ever contacting the police through this? It's AI contacting police if it detects a crime?
Not really. In most of the cases, the victim benefits of the information if they have encountered a crime or not, but not in every case they benefit from the fact that it would be filed to the police. So I think the empowerment that you get with that knowledge is key for the victim in the most of the cases. There are, of course, occasions where we have needed to contact the police, and we collaborate closely with the local polices in the different cities of Finland, of course, because we get first-hand information about what's happening on that field online that they are not aware of. And then also there are cases where there is acute help needed from the police. So as said, we are also handling very, very severe cases. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Internet's full of very severe stuff. You said that the youngest are the 7-year-old until 75 years old. So basically anybody from any walk of life can be a victim of cyberbullying, right? The cases must be very different, though. How are the cases amongst young people versus the old? What types of cyberbullying is there?
Good question. I think what we see in the underaged users, so under 18 in Finland, it means that there is, like, I would say around 25% of the cases are sexual crimes towards children that we receive, and it's quite a lot. And then lots of bullying happening at school or outside school, but related to school somehow. And then there is bullying happening in gaming or on social media platforms that is like derived from connections outside of school. That's pretty much the kind of the spectrum there. And then if we go to adults, I think the cases might be a little bit more severe in many ways. And usually if we talk about bullying or escalation of things within adults, those acts have been intentional. And that's the divider between the juniors and the seniors, in that sense that within juniors, the intentionality is not there. So it's a lot about misunderstandings and, not really understanding the consequences of your actions and like that. Whereas in the seniors, if people want to be mean, they really can be mean. And adults usually know the consequences of their actions. Not always in the whole extent of those, but like I think good examples of like cases where people have lost the control over the bullying that they have done are those where they have uploaded a bullying video on TikTok or YouTube or elsewhere, and then the video had started spreading and gone super viral, and then the bully is like, okay, what should I do now? Can I just apologize for what I did? And then it's very unfortunate to understand that no, apology isn't enough right now. So we actually have to contact the police, and we actually have to do other things, and those kind of events for the bullies are also life-changing because they will have like lifelong consequences.
I see. I remember reading a research about bullying, like old school bullying, that when somebody gets bullied as a kid, they cannot really fight and they cannot really flight. So these would be the responses from the nature that we would respond to dangers and threats. But when somebody gets bullied, they cannot do neither. So they internalize the experience and get heavily traumatized and sometimes never recover. And that was a long time ago. I read this research, but I wonder if the same thing works in cyberbullying as well. Like there's really nothing you can do about it when a video about you starts to go viral that has something you're ashamed of. And you cannot fight against it or you cannot escape from it. How are the long-term consequences of such experiences for children?
Yeah, that's you're really, really on it. So how we protect school communities here in Finland, for example, and we have more than 200,000 students under our protection currently. And what we tell the teachers when we talk about our service is that, that bullying that happens in the school is nowadays different now that it's been taken into online environments. And the main difference there is that you can't really escape it. So if, like in the old school days, you were bullied, you could just go home and maybe wait for you to grow up a little bit to change the school or to get out of the school or move to another city or so. But nowadays, if we talk about online bullying, what happens is that you can't really escape it. So you are there in the school, you might go home, you might change school, you might, change even country, but still, the material in the internet might be there just like, haunting you wherever you go and going even more and more viral every day. And that's something new that the school teachers and other personnel haven't really prepared themselves for yet. And that's where we are helping. And if we look at like long-term bullying in a school environment, for example, it's sometimes very difficult for the school community to actually do or initiate an intervention that would actually, stop the cycle. And that is something where somebody can offer a very innovative help. So for the first time, it's like, how would I say, offering the victim of the bullying the access to justice. So telling them that, okay, this what you have experienced is considered a crime under the Finnish legislation, is a super empowering fact. And then if they have been bullied online, it means that there is some evidence of the bullying, available. So putting these two things together, so having the access to justice and then the evidence is really magic. And we have been able to, intervene in some of these very long-term bullying cycles. And I have to say that this is one of the reasons why we're doing this. So we also see that, sometimes we can have even more leverage in the online environment with our service.
I understand. What originally prompted you to go on a journey to develop an AI against cyberbullying? It's a very, let's say, niche-oriented product.
It's super niche-oriented, but looking at the kind of statistics, it would actually yield for a very popular service to help people globally. And of course, we're on the pathway to do that. I think personally, I had my background in social media research, and it was quite evident already 10 years ago that whether you're on Facebook or elsewhere on the internet, your reputation can be ruined in seconds. And that was kind of a game changer for many of the decision makers, politicians, or influencers in our society, that, there could be a very juicy rumor spread about you, and then you just lost your game totally. And I think it was a good motivation for me personally to start thinking about the ways how we could actually protect reputations and identities in the online era. And somebody, like the concept of somebody was super ambitious at the time when we were planning to do it, like about this access to justice. Like there is no one who could give this type of help, especially to young people who don't have any money to pay for it. And also like AI was taking its first steps back then. So now it would be a lot easier to build that kind of system that we started building almost 6 years ago. But then, of course, I think as an entrepreneur, where we are is that you have to be a little bit crazy to start working on this type of a project. So it takes some, I don't know, very optimistic view of on the world in that sense to really start pushing towards something that no one has ever built before, and also to motivate others around you to start working on it. So it's, I don't know. Looking back, it's, yeah, how did I do that?
I see. You had there was a team of 3 female founders, right? Did I understand correctly?
Yes.
And when you started
Yes.
Somebody, I actually met another one of you, Mintu. I met Mintu before. I don't know who the third one was, but is the team still together, or are you working together still?
No,
on Somebody?
we quit working together a couple of years ago during COVID. So things have changed in the company since then quite a lot.
I see. COVID, I forgot to ask about that. How did the COVID affect cyberbullying? It must have had tremendous impact online because everybody was there.
Yeah, there is not that like super cool and fresh statistics over like COVID time period, but how we saw it was that the increase was tremendous, definitely, and people were so anxious about so many things in their lives. So of course it was transferred to online environments, and at the same time, for us at Somebody, it was clear that the biggest transition that happened was like the work life, like becoming totally remote basis, and that is something that has, you know, impacted on how we do our business today. So we also protect work communities, and there is huge need for like helping hands in many organizations, because people are spending 85% of their working time on different platforms, and they are there as humans, and they are, you know, having their regular human conflicts. They're a part of human life. And then, you know, it's something that, you know, people need help in order to survive those conflicts and to tackle them and to grow bigger at heart and mind to overcome those.
Is Somebody intervening with workplace bullying, let's say in Slack? Because that happens. Adults are big children as well. I mean, my employees have been bullying each other. I've seen that, and I've been in companies where, I've seen that happening a lot in real life. And I've seen that happening actually in Slack also a little bit. Like somebody starts a channel and they don't invite the others there, and whatever, stupid things happen. Is Somebody intervening in that in any way?
Yeah, if you ask for our help, we will help you in that. So definitely you will get the best advice from our professionals how to solve the situation. So that's the deal. And I think Slack and other platforms that encourage like textual communication are also causing lots of like misunderstandings and escalations for no good reason. And of course, people during COVID and maybe still are having anxiety and fears and all kinds of also like pressure on them. So, people react also in online environments very, very hard at times, and Somebody can help in those. And then of course, like if we talk about like work organizations, I think one of the key challenges for many is not like the gap between generations and the cultures that are within. So the older generations had a little bit different habits of, about like how they talk about things and how they view things. And now the younger generation at work is having a little bit different level of expectations towards many ways of speaking and behaving and so on. So Somebody has to, at least in Finland, a key role in kind of filling in this gap. So making these generations to get over the conflicts and the discrepancies that they have by offering good nudges towards like building the bridges instead of burning them.
Got it. Also, sexual harassment in workplaces has been a big deal as long as there has been workplaces. I bet that happens online as well.
Yeah, it happens online and at workplaces and everywhere. And even though we are not focused only on sexual harassment, it's one of the major, categories for us. And there also, I think that like the generational difference is significant at the moment, like what we consider as sexual harassment and what not. And then also, I think that sexual harassment is super sensitive topic, so it's very hard actually to handle those cases when they appear in the organizational context. And like from our perspective, for example, how we see them is that, that will happen, like sexual harassment can happen. And, it's just like the matter of how you handle the situation, that can you get over it or not. And some organizations are really struggling with these cultural difficulties at the moment. And definitely I would recommend everyone in every single work organization to take care of each other and take some actions to make the sexual harassment reporting or handling of those incidents easier and more like how would I say, like a part of everyday activity of the organization. And I don't want to sound like, that sexual harassment is something normal or it should be normalized, but rather, handling the cases that there should be normal and not like something that we wipe under the rug.
Got it. I'd like to ask about your background as a social media researcher. From the point of view, I'd like to know where do you see social media started from? Like from where you started your research? Is it from MySpace or earlier than that?
I started my research on Last FM. That's like a music listening service. It still exists. And I think social media, as it's known today, started maybe with Facebook, I would say, because it gave a very common ground for so many people to understand what it is and also to, kind of gave the face for a social media user. And I think still today there is this, as a social media researcher, if I get a call from media, they are, okay, how does the social media users consider this and that and yada, yada, yada. And then I'm like, okay, social media users, so you just mean like regular people. So it's like, there is no social media user in a category like 25 to 29-year-old, like super active, super cool person. No, it's like everyone, at least when you look at the statistics of Finland, like everyone's using social media in all age categories and from all fields of society. So social media users are now people and like regular people. And for me, I think, and for my research, Facebook was the real initiator of the social media, of how it established that since.
And it's not too long ago. We've come very far from when Facebook started. Where do you see social media is going, let's say, in the next 10, 20 years?
Super good question. Well, I think, like, even though I'm, like, okay, my background is in social media research, and now I'm an impact entrepreneur, at the same time, I think I've spent the past 10 years being very critical towards social media. So taught engineering students and social sciences students to to perceive social media as something, that we should be very much aware of, and how it affects our lives and our opinions and attitudes and so on. And now I think we are at the crossroads where we are actually putting some good legislation and regulation on place in the EU level. But then also we are at the phase where, I think in the Western countries at least, we have recognized the power of social media. So it's not only about cat videos anymore. We talk about politics, we talk about economy, we talk about war, we talk about, that, and we understand that social media has really had the influence on those, not only the people, but also the algorithms behind social media. And in that sense, I think when we look at social media and the future of it, there are a couple possible future for social media. The one is the very regulated one that will most probably be good for the planet and good for the humankind in general. Or there might be social media that it's still under-regulated and too free, and might be causing lots of harm for the humankind. And just to clarify myself a little bit, in the latter scenario, I think it's not a matter of freedom of speech, for example. It has nothing to do with it. It's more matter of the technical affordances there are on every single platform, and the algorithms and the values or the principles they are after. And if those can't be fixed, then the future isn't so bright, and it will be super hard to navigate for as a regular person, how to behave and how to consume and how to live your life in a good way.
What are the values, in your opinion, that needs to be fixed in social media for things to be bright in the future?
Currently, the biggest platforms are having this value of how to make the user to spend as much time as possible on that specific platform. And that's a value that we wouldn't like to see there. But it's also complicated to let this value to go, since if, let's say, TikTok would change that, then there would be another platform who would actually be taking the place of TikTok, making people addicted to their services and so on. So it's also like a market question, pretty much.
I see. I'd like to ask you one question which I ask from everybody who come to this podcast, which is about positive future. So let's say we teleport right now into year 2092, and things have gone well. It's a Suvi's utopia, whatever that means. As you would like things to go 70 years in the future. What do you see outside the window? How are things? What do people do? How the societies function? If you describe it in present tense, how would it be?
Oi. I should ask this more often for myself. Definitely. I think what we see is that when we look outside the window is that we are actually using the technology to help us as humankind. And we are smart enough to have understood how people really behave, and forgot about the scenarios where people are like machines and behave like machines. No, people are not like that, and we have recognized that. And then, of course, we have been able to reinvent the capital system in order to put the values that our societies appreciate into the front. And that might mean that we still have the planet existing, and then also that we have a pretty nice global political system to provide us with like peace and welfare. Yeah, I'd like to be there.
That sounds beautiful. That sounds really good. I want to get there too. Let's work on that. I want to ask you one last question about social media, which I forgot to ask, is just what kind of advice would you give people how to use social media, how to relate to social media? What would be your experts, let's say, guidelines for that, or just advice?
Well, I'm actually writing about the concept of 10% right now. So, and meaning with this 10% that people should definitely enjoy social media and the social aspects of it and the self-expression aspects of it and also belonging aspects of it. But then at the same time, we should be very, careful in how much time we spend with social media and what we do in there, like being more active when we are there and so on. And then the rest of the time, like the 90%, we should focus on the life outside of social media. So the existing offline connection with other people, which is hard for people. I know it's super hard to be in F2F meetings and to see people as incomplete. And then also what I see important is that people would lean on themselves, finding, the inner messages there are for all of us, and to cope with those before running so fast towards catching the feeds of social media and trying to get something out of there and still feeling quite empty afterwards. So yeah, that's what I think right now.
What are your guesses regarding the virtual reality and this meta? And will the social media become like everybody glues a TV in their face and just act as an avatar?
I think not everybody will do that. So there are so many generational divides at the moment, so that won't happen. But I bet that it will be a game changer to be in this virtual reality with your own avatar and act there as a real person. And it will change so many things for the society and globally also for different domains and so on. But it's also to remember that the same problems will follow us there, what we have in offline context and online context right now. So if we don't figure those out, we're just like having the heavy package with us when we go to Metaverse or wherever. And that comes, for example, to online harassment. We've seen it there. So.
I understand. All right, I think that was everything I wanted to ask from you today. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast, and it was a really fruitful conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.